For having me. I'm honored to be here tonight. It's kind of exciting, and as I was driving east, because I was a Packer, it's always I still am a Packer. Very good point. Yeah, exactly. And we have to remember, and I have a lot of friends that played for the Vikings that live here, and I remind them that this here is a Viking Super Bowl hand. Absolutely no rings on it. So I tell Jim Marshall that, I tell the young guys, the old guys, that's it. So that's my response. Unfortunately, I wasn't part of a team that won a championship for the Packers either. So I was there for 5 years, 2 years with Mike Holmgren, 3 years with, 2 years, I'm sorry, with Lindy Infante, 3 years with Mike Holmgren, and as it always happens, I was a running back, and I kind of kid, it's like, kind of like dodging, running through traffic when you're a deer. And I was a deer that got caught in traffic. And I'm just, unfortunately, carnage now. So that's the way it is. I had my hip replaced about a year ago. So I had my best friend had his done like about 3 years ago, and I was like, we're the same age, and we played together in college, and he never even talked about it. And then one day he goes, yeah, my hip done, like about a week ago, and he's doing better, and he coaches, and he told me about all these things he was doing. He was coaching and moving around with the kids, and I was like, I walk with a limp and I can't do anything, and he said, just get it replaced. So I had it replaced, and probably one of the best things I ever did. So I was a little bit young, I was in the therapy, and I was laying there, and this lady sitting next to me, and she was like in her mid-70s, she goes, oh, you're kind of, I said, well, you know, I think I picked the wrong job. But I still, and people ask me, said, would you go back and do it again? I probably would do it again. And I have 2 boys that they play football, and they play basketball, and I think the game's changed. But I would encourage them to play. I mean, I think they're a lot more careful now, and I know when I was playing, if a guy got knocked down or knocked out, they pretty much just sent you back out there, but it's quite a bit safer than it was when I was playing. So you kind of, when I was talking to George and Sarah and thinking about my comments is, well, talk about the NFL and talk about your experience. And I think the NFL was a wonderful experience. It was an honor to play in the NFL, and I think about how I even got to where I'm at Boulder Options. And I remember, and this is one of my, it's an interesting story, I had a scout, you know, people come and work you out. So I had this scout from, I think it was the New England Patriots. He came in, he said, I want to put you through the exercise, you're going to run a 40, you're going to do your vertical leap, and we're going to do all these different tests. And then we want to sit down and talk a little bit. And I was like, well, okay. So while we're walking out, he said, so what do you want to do when you get done with football? Because, you know, your average life expectancy of a football player is like 2 years, and he gave me all the stats. I said, all right. I said, and he said, and don't tell me this, Arvidelli, this is funny, I think. He said, don't tell me you want to work with kids. He said, everybody says they want to work with kids. And at that point, I had to put I said, you know, I got to tell you the truth. I said, actually, I do want to work with kids. I said, I think the kids are the most important thing that you can wrap your arms around and that you can make a difference with. And it's become my, like, I told him that at that point, and I said, that's what I plan to do with, I don't know, maybe not the rest of my life, but a good chunk of it, and that's been 20 years. So I think about that guy quite often, the guy that told me, don't tell me you're going to work with kids. I said, well, I am, and I think that we've done a very, very good job of it. So it led me to where I'm at Boulder Options. I've been here for 20 years. When we started, Boulder Options was a very, very small program. Started when Minneapolis was called Murderapolis. And it was a 3-month, or we were a 3-month program that worked with truant kids, first-time offenders. And the first year we worked with 6 kids. Second year we worked with 11 kids. And we got up to the mid-50s for a few years. And we ended up expanding finally into St. Paul. We've expanded into Rochester. And last year we engaged about 1,600 kids around the state of Minnesota in programming. So I'm very, very proud of the program, and I actually sit on the Greater Twin Cities United Way board, Council of Agency Executives, so I see Arvidelli there and at some of the meetings, and I believe that what you guys are doing here is kind of hand in hand with what needs to happen. The opportunity for you guys to be here tonight to share and to give to the community. This is a wonderful community. It's a beautiful community, but if you don't take care of yourself, things get pretty difficult. And you guys here giving of your treasure, giving of your time is very, very, very much appreciated. In my time, I've seen a lot of people and a lot of donors, and this is one of the type of events that it kind of warms my heart, because I think about what is the reason that I'm here today. What's the reason that I drove over here to spend some time with you guys? And I think back to when I first was in the NFL, and during the off seasons I was volunteering at different agencies around the city of Minneapolis. And the one that kind of drove me, that really touched my heart, was one day, it was my buddy and I, we were taking some kids home. We were part of this midnight basketball league. And I wasn't married at the time, and I had a lot of free time, so I worked out during the day, and then 2 or 3 nights a week we volunteered with these kids. And we'd play basketball, we did homework with them, and it took down like till about 9 or 9:30 at night, and then they needed a ride home. And I remember talking to the kids in the car and spending time with them. And then one time, I was dropping a young man off over in, I think it was like deep southeast Minneapolis, and he said, "Thank you." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He said, "You thanks for the ride home?" He goes, "No," he said, "Thanks. Thanks for coming out." He said, "Thanks for actually caring about me." And I was like, I was touched. I actually kind of teared up a little bit when I told my girlfriend I got home. I said, "This kid said thanks. You know, thank you for taking care of me and driving me home and giving of your time." So since then, I've always been of the mind that I have to give, I have to share, I have to be involved in the community. And I think, you know, one of the biggest pieces that we have at Boulder Options is the mentoring component. We are an activity-based mentoring program. So we do running, we do biking, we do homework with kids over the course of the year. And it's actually our mission statement. Our mission statement is to introduce kids to a healthy lifestyle. And I am blessed. My parents, when I was 5 years old, they were divorced. My dad moved away like 6 blocks. He said, "I'm not gonna let someone else raise my kid," so he was always involved. My parents were super athletes, so they were always playing softball and basketball and flag football. So my dad would come over on Saturday morning, pick me up, and then we'd go play basketball. Then on Monday night we played softball. And then there was always something going on. I wasn't always playing, but I was always there. And I was always there. And for these kids in Boulder Options to have an opportunity to be connected to these activities, to be able to run, to be able to bike, to be able to swim, to be able to exercise, to be able to get into the Boys and Girls Club, to be able to get into the YMCA, to have those relationships for us at Boulder Options is enormous. It kind of talks about our partnerships. And I talked to George and Sarah, and you guys have, I believe, 25 different partnerships, am I correct? For 25 different agencies and 40 different organizations that you support, programs that you support. Good thing that George is here. Should have been at the board meeting this morning. But partnerships is a big deal for us at Boulder Options, because I was talking to a gentleman today that's starting a program. He says, "And we just want to pick your brain, Darrell, and you know you started Boulder Options." And I'm like, "Oh, I could never start anything from scratch again. It's exhausting." I said, "But I'm willing to help you," because he wants to help us build the pipeline, a lot like what you guys do at United Way, so that you can actually have services, so you have the food shelf, and you have the shelter, and you have all the different things that United Way supports are extremely, extremely important. Another thing we do at Boulder Options is community service. I don't think a lot of our kids realize the importance of giving back. You know, I think sometimes a kid's in a tough situation, or maybe not so tough situation, and they get referred to us. And so we actually require the kids in our organization, right, come through the Boulder Options program to give something back. We're required to give something back. And the final piece, and probably one of the keys, I think, that's been one of our successful pieces for years for the kids inside our program, is that we set goals with our kids. So we have goal-setting component. The first goal is an educational goal. The second goal is a physical goal. And the third goal is a goal that they're allowed to set on their own. So out of the kids that finish our program, there's we have on average a 1-point increase in their GPA. Wow. So and our goal that we set programmatically with our kids is that we actually want you to go to school every day. That's a big deal. If you're in school every day, you feel better about yourself, and you'll have that success. The second goal is a physical goal, and that's kind of what the mentor, as far as just doing better. We run 5Ks and 10Ks and things like that. So just doing a little bit better in 5 and 10K, and being outside, you know, I was spoiled and blessed, and even my kids, my friends that maybe weren't even quite so athletic, at least we were outside all day. Even my kids now, they can go down the basement, they can talk to their friend somewhere else, and they can play video games from 9 o'clock in the morning till midnight, if we let them. So you have to get outside. You have to smell fresh air. You have to, you know, learn how to cook food. We do that with our kids too, just learn how to cook. And being able to kind of sprinkle, and I call it, I was telling someone earlier today that kids help parents decide what they want to buy, even for groceries. My youngest daughter loves apples. So we always have apples in the house. We might run out of other stuff, but Indigo's apples are always going to be in the house. So we talk about in our nutrition piece of our program, we said we need these kids to realize the importance of good nutrition, because they can infect their parents and have them say, you know what, I don't really always want to have cinnamon rolls for breakfast, although they're good. But I think, you know, sometimes we should have oatmeal, we might want to have eggs, we might want to have some other things, just to get them thinking a little bit. So I am honored that you guys asked me to come speak today. And I had a speech yesterday, and I talked to these kids, and you guys might be interested. And this is my funny history piece. Not really funny, but I'm curious if there's anyone here that I ask all young football players, who's the greatest defensive back in the history of the NFL? Does any gentleman or lady want to take a chance at that? Take a shot?
Lawrence Taylor.
Lawrence Taylor, defensive back, not linebacker.
Okay.
Yes,
Sorry.
No, I'm not going to go with him. I'm going to go with, and I told these kids yesterday, I said that my favorite, the greatest defensive back in the history of the NFL is Dick Lane. Dick Lane, they call him Dick Night Train Lane. He still leads the NFL in interceptions. When the NFL played a 12-game season, he had 14 interceptions. Deion Sanders does not have that many interceptions. Darrell Green does not have that many interceptions. No Minnesota Viking cornerback or receiver, defensive back has that many. I can't help it. I can't help it. Not even a Packer, unfortunately, has that many interceptions in the history of the game. And he would also hit you. They actually changed the rules because of Dick. They called him Night Train Lane, and not because of the night train. He actually did not like to fly on planes. So he would take the night train to the game so he could get to the game the next day. So pretty amazing story, and it was funny. My favorite piece, a little clip I saw on him that said, Weeb Eubanks was the coach of the Baltimore Colts, and he told Johnny Unitas, he said, Johnny, do not throw the ball on the side of the field where Dick Lane is. And Johnny Unitas said, Johnny Unitas? Throw the ball, he said, throw the ball where I want to throw the ball. I'm Johnny Unitas, like Warren Moon, I'm the guy. He threw the ball to Dick Lane's side one time. Dick Lane picked the ball off and ran the ball back for a touchdown. So, my opinion, the greatest defense back in the history of football. And I got football stories. I love broadcasting for the University of Minnesota. It has been a real pleasure and honor. I've been doing it now for 17 years. I have had the opportunity to work with Ray Christensen, Dave Mona, Dave Lee. Now I work with Justin Guard, and it's funny now because I'm like old. I used to be like, when I sat down originally, I was with Ray Christensen. He was up there when I started, like in his probably mid 70s or something like that when he started. Wonderful, professional. And I remember I asked him, I always said, God, if I could just, I said, if you ever have any advice for me, like in broadcasting, I'd be more than willing to, I don't know anything. I was on the field like 2 years ago, now I'm here with you in the booth. And he said, well, this is like about 4 or 5 games into the season, and one time we were getting ready before a game. I had my notes out, and they were always cluttered, and I have at least a little bit of a plan now. He said, Darrell, I have some advice for you. I said, yeah. I said, well, what is it? He said, I'll tell you what, we're on the air for 5 hours. He said, I always suggest you go to the restroom before we go on the air. You get distracted if you have to go to the bathroom when you're on the air. So that was the one huge piece of advice I got from him. And he also told me I should take a deep breath before I say anything, which was fun. In the beginning I was rush. And he said, take a deep breath. And if you go to the restroom, then you're in good shape. So he was a mentor, a friend, and really someone I learned more from watching Ray Christensen than I really did. He didn't have to tell me a lot. When I watched him, I learned a lot. You know, and the same with Dave Lee and Dave Mona were great mentors for me. Now I'm with these guys that are a little bit younger, and Mike Grimm and Justin Gard and the K-Fan guys, so it's a different mood, a different vibe, but it's an honor, and I'm excited about the University of Minnesota football team. And I have not been for a little while. So I'm always excited and optimistic. So when I get together and I put my notes together for the game, so I have this sheet that's got offense, defense, all these stats, and in my head I go, if we do this, we can win, if we do that, we can win, and it didn't happen. It wasn't happening very often, and I didn't really see much of a plan towards making it happen. So I was getting, you know, I always am hopeful, but eventually with some of the coaches, but this staff, I see it happen. So I'm excited. I learned a lot from Coach Kill and his staff, just what they do, the way they approach things, the way they take feedback from their players, the way they take feedback from their other coaches. If another coach has a really good idea about something they want to do schematically, they're like, we'll bring it to the table. We can talk about it. If everyone kind of agrees on it by the end of the week and it makes sense, and we'll put it in the game plan. It's also a good way to teach a young coach to move from being a grad assistant to being a position coach to being a coordinator, hopefully one day being a head coach. So I love it. It's very exciting. I go to the Big Ten press conference in about 2 weeks, so I'll see all the other coaches and kind of get the information. Then we start in like about a month. So I am excited. It's always football season in my opinion. I am always sad in between when basketball ends and football starts, because I like baseball, but I just can't do a whole lot of baseball. I watched the All-Star game, and I watch a home run derby, and that's about it. I'll watch the World Series, you know. So, but I'm not as much into baseball. So, I really appreciate you guys having me out here tonight. It's quite an honor, and please continue to support and give. This is a wonderful community, Minnesota, the United Way here in Washington County deserves it, and I'm really honored and glad you guys have me here tonight. Thank you very much.
But Darrell's just an example of what every person in this room is, and that's somebody who walks their talk. He walks his talk, and every single person, because you wouldn't be in this room if you didn't also. So again, thank you for what you do. Here's where I'm going to go, you know, a little, Angie's like, what is she going to say now? Does anybody have any questions for us? So, about our community investment process, about what's going on with United Way.
Who's the largest recipient of aid from the Washington County?
This is where Angie's going to be really mad at me that I did that, so.
There's the top 5. Joanne, do you know the top one?
I don't know.
Top 5 is good. Well, Family Means, Arbadella.
Family Means.
Youth Services Bureau.
Canvas Health. Help me out, Joanne.
Tubman.
Tubman.
Valley
Outreach.
So I guess I would say, where would people go for this information if they're looking for this?
Our website.
Well, the partner agencies that we fund, they're all listed on our website and the programs that we support. We don't put the amounts, though.
But it's a great question, and it's a question that you guys are able to ask and answer, so that's great. So.
Any other questions? Sarah?
She was supposed to stick to her script. I wrote it for her last night. All right. Well, again, if you have any questions, again, you guys are the largest donors. We so appreciate it, and you have the right and the responsibility to hold us accountable for the money that you give. So ask us questions, call us. Lois and Joanne love to answer those phone calls, so please reach out and ask questions and give us feedback on what we can do better. So thank you so much. Now we're just having more time to mingle, and thank you again for coming.